My name is Daniel Hartley. I'm 34 years old. I work as a financial analyst in Leeds, and I'm not the kind of person who believes in the paranormal. I believe in data. I believe in logic. I believe in things that can be measured and explained. What happened to me on November 14th, 2019 cannot be explained. It was a Thursday. I had stayed late at the office, a budget review that dragged on well past 9 p.m. By the time I grabbed my coat, locked my desk, and walked the 12 minutes to Leeds City Station, the last fast train to my village had already gone. I was left with the slow local, the 1047 to Harrogate, stopping at every ghost town along the way. The station was almost empty. Just a few commuters with their heads down, a cleaner pushing a mop across the marble floor, and the distant echo of my own footsteps. I remember thinking how different a train station feels at night. The same architecture, the same departure boards, the same fluorescent lights, but something is off. The sounds are wrong, too hollow, too far away. I boarded the train and found myself alone in carriage 7. I remember the carriage number clearly because I noticed it when I stepped on. A small metal placard beside the door, slightly rusted at the corners. I chose a window seat, plugged in my earphones, and started scrolling through emails on my phone. Outside, the platform slid away as the train pulled out of Leeds. For the first 20 minutes, nothing happened. The train rocked gently. The towns blurred past. I started to feel drowsy. And then, at the Horsforth stop, the carriage doors opened. A woman got on. She was tall, late 40s, maybe early 50s. She wore a long dark coat, the kind that buttons all the way to the collar, and she carried no bag, no handbag, no briefcase, nothing. Just her hands folded in front of her at waist height. She sat directly across the aisle from me, 3 seats forward, and she faced forward. She didn't look at her phone. She didn't look at the window. She just sat, perfectly still, staring at the back of the seat in front of her. I told myself not to stare. Late-night passengers are strange. I knew that. I put my earphones back in and looked at my phone, but something kept pulling my eyes back to her. It wasn't her stillness, exactly. It was the quality of the stillness. Most people, even when they're sitting quietly, shift. They blink more than they realize. They breathe visibly. They fidget with a zipper or tap a finger. This woman did none of that. She sat like a photograph of a person, like a shape in the seat. At Headingley, 3 people got off the train. Nobody got on. Now it was just me and her. I pulled out one earphone and, without fully deciding to, said, "Cold night, isn't it?" She didn't respond. "Sorry," I said louder. I said, "Cold night." She turned her head. I want to be precise about what I saw because I've thought about it every day since. Her face was fine, normal. 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth. But something in the arrangement was wrong. Not grotesquely wrong, not movie monster wrong, just slightly wrong. The way a face looks when you've been staring at it too long in a mirror. And suddenly it doesn't look like a face anymore, like the parts were assembled correctly but by someone who had only read a description. She said, "You're in the wrong carriage." I blinked. "Sorry." "You're in the wrong carriage," she repeated. Flat voice, like no warmth, no hostility, like just a statement. "This is carriage 7, I said. "I need to be on this train." She turned her head back to face forward, and I told myself she was odd but harmless. I put my earphone back in. 30 seconds later, every light in the carriage went out. Not the whole train. I could see through the connecting door window that the next carriage was still lit. Just carriage 7. Just us. In complete darkness. The only light, the pale orange glow of passing street lamps through the window. In that half-darkness, I watched the woman stand up. She didn't reach for the overhead bar. The train was moving, rocking. But she stood perfectly balanced, as if the motion didn't apply to her. And she turned around, and she was looking directly at me. Not in my direction. At me. like she could see fine in the dark. She said very quietly, "Get off," at the next stop. The lights came back on. She was sitting down again, facing forward, perfectly still. I got off, at the next stop. It was Burley Park. Not my stop, not even close to my stop, a 20-minute taxi ride from my house. I didn't care. I got off. I stood on that cold, empty platform, and I watched the train pull away. The next morning I told myself it was exhaustion, a strange woman, a power flicker, an overactive imagination. Then I checked the news. Between Burley Park and my actual stop, Harrogate, the train that night had been stopped by emergency services. A man in carriage 7 had suffered a severe medical episode, cardiac arrest. He had been the only passenger in that carriage from Burley Park onward. Emergency responders had reached him in time. He survived. But the report noted something that I keep coming back to, something I have never been able to explain. The man later told police that just before he collapsed, a woman in the carriage had told him to call for help. He turned to look at her, and the seat was empty. There was nobody else in that carriage. The lesson here is simple and uncomfortable. Sometimes the things that frighten us the most are the things trying to protect us. Not everything strange is dangerous, but ignoring a warning, whether it comes from a stranger, a gut feeling, or something you cannot explain, can cost you everything. Trust the instinct that says, "Get off." My name is Sophie Cairns. I'm 27. I live in Salford, and I had spent that evening at a friend's birthday dinner in the Northern Quarter. Good food, one too many glasses of wine, and a missed last tram that pushed me into Manchester Piccadilly station just after midnight, waiting for the 1:15 a.m. service. The station at that hour is its own world. The food chains are shuttered behind metal grates. The ticket offices are dark. A handful of security staff move slowly through the hall, and the passengers waiting are the ones who had no other option. Shift workers, late travelers, people like me who missed their connection. We sat in the plastic seats under the departure boards and didn't make eye contact. I noticed him at around 12:30. He was sitting diagonally across from me, middle-aged, ordinary-looking, wearing a gray jacket and dark trousers. He had a coffee cup in his hand, but he wasn't drinking from it. He was watching the boards, and occasionally, without moving his head, he was watching me. I told myself I was imagining it. I shifted in my seat. I checked my phone. I moved slightly so a pillar was between us. And I watched from the corner of my eye as he shifted slightly too. When the 1:15 was called, I joined the stream of passengers heading for platform 3. I deliberately positioned myself in the middle of a group, a family with luggage, 2 young men in football shirts. Safety in numbers. I found a seat in a busy carriage near the doors. I didn't look for him, but at Salford Crescent, my stop, I stood up to leave, and so did he. I stepped onto the platform. He stepped onto the platform. There were 4 other people getting off. I walked with them, quickly, keeping pace. He walked behind me. The other 4 passengers all turned left at the station exit toward the car park. I turned right, toward the residential streets. He turned right too. I want to be clear. It was 1:40 in the morning, the street was empty, and this man had now followed me from a station seat onto a specific train, off at my specific stop, and turned in the specific direction of my flat. I did not go home. This is important. Every instinct in my body said, do not lead him to your door. So I kept walking, and I called my friend Rachel, and I talked loudly. Yeah. Just on my way to yours now, almost there. And I turned onto a well-lit main road and walked into a 24-hour Tesco Express. He stopped outside. I could see him through the window, standing under a street lamp, not moving, looking at the entrance. I stayed in that shop for 25 minutes. I told the cashier, a young man named Dev, who I will never forget, that someone was following me. He let me stand behind the counter. He called the police. 2 officers arrived within 8 minutes. When they approached the man outside, he ran. They caught him 2 streets away. What they found when they searched him is something the officer told me with a very specific look on her face. The look of someone delivering information they wish they didn't have to. He had zip ties in his jacket pocket. He had a cloth and a small bottle of a substance I won't name. He had, on his phone, photographs of me, taken inside the station while I was sitting under the departure boards and on the platform and through the train window. He had been watching me for over an hour before I even noticed him. The lesson I carry from that night: your instincts are not overreacting. Society has spent years teaching women, teaching all of us, to doubt the uncomfortable feeling, to not make a fuss, to give people the benefit of the doubt. Throw that out. If someone makes you feel unsafe, you are allowed to act on that. Do not go home. Go somewhere public. Tell someone. Call for help. The embarrassment of being wrong is nothing. Absolutely nothing compared to the alternative. My name is James Whitfield. I'm 41, a secondary school history teacher from Shrewsbury, and the night of October 31st, 2017, Halloween, was the night I stood on a platform that, according to every official record, does not exist. I had been visiting my brother in Birmingham. I'd taken the evening train back toward Shrewsbury, and due to engineering works, had to change at a small intermediate station, a tiny Victorian station in Shropshire that I'd never stopped at before. My connection was supposed to be a 12-minute wait. It was 11:47 p.m. when I stepped onto the platform. Cold, clear night. No other passengers. The platform was lit by old-style lamp posts. Amber light that puddled on the flagstones and didn't reach the edges. Beyond the platform edge was darkness, the rails, and then countryside. No sounds except wind. My phone had 3% battery. I checked the time, saw my connection wasn't due until 11:59, and decided to walk the length of the platform to keep warm. The platform was longer than I expected. I walked and walked, and the lamplight kept extending ahead of me, and the station building behind me kept getting smaller, and I realized I had been walking for what felt like 3 or 4 minutes, and the platform hadn't ended. That doesn't make sense, I know. Small rural platform. I should have reached the end in 40 seconds. And then I saw the other platform. Across the tracks, on the opposite side, a second platform, unlit. Just the outline of it in the dark, and a shelter, and a bench, and a figure. I stopped. The figure was sitting completely still. In the darkness, I couldn't make out features, just a shape, human-shaped, sitting with its hands on its knees, facing forward, facing me. I felt cold in a way that had nothing to do with the October air. I looked back toward the station building. It was very far away now, the lights of it small and distant. I had walked much further than was possible. I looked back at the figure across the tracks. It had moved closer to the edge of the opposite platform. I had not seen it move. I had looked away for 3 seconds. In those 3 seconds, it had covered 15 feet of ground without appearing to move at all. It was now standing at the platform edge, directly across from me, and it was looking at me. I knew it was looking at me despite the fact that I couldn't see a face. I just knew, the way you know when someone is staring at the back of your head. My phone died. The amber lamp lights around me flickered. The figure raised one arm, slowly, mechanically, like a turnstile, and pointed down the platform, in the direction I had been walking. I did the opposite. I turned around and I walked back toward the station building, and I want to describe what that walk was like because it matters. The station building did not get closer at a normal rate. I walked and walked, and it stayed small, and then, between one step and the next, it was right there, 10 meters ahead of me, as if it had jumped. I practically fell through the station door. Inside, warm light. A bored station attendant playing something on his phone. Normal. Completely, blessedly normal. My train arrived at 11:59. I got on. I didn't look back at the platform. In the morning, on a charged phone, I looked up the station. I found its official page, its platform layout. 2 platforms, one active, one decommissioned in 1973. The decommissioned platform had been physically removed in 1989, where I had seen the bench, the shelter, the figure. There was nothing. Had been nothing for 28 years. The ground on that side of the tracks was overgrown embankment. I called the station manager. I described the platform exactly, the shelter design, the style of the bench, the position of the lamp posts that were not lit. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "That's what the old platform looked like before they took it down." He asked me which direction the figure had pointed. I told him, "Further down the decommissioned platform, further into the dark." He said very carefully, "I'd say you did the right thing going the other way." He wouldn't explain what he meant. He thanked me for calling and he ended the conversation. I have thought about that pointed arm every October since. I don't know what was at the end of that platform. I don't know what would have happened if I had followed the direction it pointed. I know only this. Something in me refused, and I'm here to tell the story. Not everyone who walks far enough into the dark finds their way back.